that's the beauty of the United States is you get all these different cultures, all these different experiences. And I think, and I do the same thing in business, like what's great that I can grab onto and what do I want to grab onto so I realize to stay away from it.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you feel like pressing play on this thing. Hopefully you checked out the thumbnail because we went out of our way to make crazy thumbnail pictures for this one. Nick Alfano here, and the podcast is Feedback, my favorite F word of all the F words I drop from stage. This is the one. We've got a special guest here. We linked up maybe 3 months ago?
Yeah, man.
Right? 90 days ago. And the beautiful thing about since I moved to Nashville is just it's been difficult to find like-minded people. So I'm going to welcome my man Jim Morris into the building, into the seat, into the Feedback podcast arena, and we're going to get moving, and we're going to add some value to your world. So, my man Jim, how you doing?
Absolutely wonderful, brother. I appreciate you having me, and hopefully we can have a good conversation to pour into the listeners.
Yeah, 100%. We actually had a pretty cool conversation, 2 days ago or so?
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah.
Smoking some cigars, and my man's heavily connected here in Nashville, and we found ourselves in... obviously, I don't want to give away the address, but in the Jersey Shore Nashville house is where we found ourselves.
Little rooftop action, looking at downtown, you know.
So for those of you that are, you don't want to admit it, but you closet watch Jersey Shore to this day. They made their way to Nashville. I think the episodes aired sometime in April of 24, and we got the opportunity to hang out in that house, and it was a beautiful view of Nashville, and we got to smoke some cigars till about midnight, and really just have some powerful conversations. So. You know how these podcasts go. We've both guested on, countless podcasts, and usually the out of the box, out of the gate is, hey, bro, tell me your story, But I think we're not going to go there this time, and I'd love to hear like your synopsis on that because we had a brief convo around that, and I found it fascinating.
Well, I'm someone who will typically fast forward when I listen to podcasts, when I hear the story, because although it may tell your roots and where it came from, I like to move fast, and time's important, but also energy, right? So as you're consuming, you're using energy. So I don't necessarily personally care about other people's story and what they went through. I want to hear how they're disrupting the industry and how they're providing impact today. And I don't say that in a manner of like, it's not important, but for what we're trying to do right now is pour into people. They're busy, they're distracted, they may be in the car, they may be at the gym. Like, let's just jump into it and drop some value rather than me talking about some of the challenges I've faced and how I've overcome them, right? We've all faced challenges. We've all overcome them. And everybody's got a story. I don't care who you are, right? Yeah. Like, life isn't just this progressive incline and gradual slope forward and up, right?
It's not?
It's messy.
Well, I'm doing it all wrong. 'Cause my expectation is just this gradual linear curve of awesomeness growth, right?
Then you and many others are going to disappoint themselves day in and day out, right? And that's the beauty of life. And I think that's what so many people miss is you have the opportunity because you're here and you woke up today to provide impact, to disrupt, to create, to do whatever you do and desire. But through that process, we are here to, I'm so passionate about it because it's like those lessons I want to share with people, but I want to do it in a way where we can create and advance and really bring that impact. So it's not necessarily about me. It's about you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend time talking about me and all the things I've done because I want to get into your life and I want to hear what you're doing and I want to hear and be able to strategize with you.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, that's extremely rare. It's a rare commodity nowadays. I think what I've noticed over the several years, and I don't want to call it the personal development world, but that's probably the easiest way to frame it up, is most of the guys that are winning are more focused on the other person, right? How can they help the other person rather than, it's difficult to go on a podcast left and right. I think I did 100-something last year and have them just ask your story. And I try to gloss over it. I'm like, hey, I don't, it feels weird to talk about myself, number one. Number two, like, I've said this so many times, go watch another one. So yeah, like for those of you listening, if you're on a treadmill, if you value your time like you should, and we all do, we're going to move straight into the word I grabbed right now, and the word that's on your shirt. And I think the reason we connected was our mission is very similar. Like our whole mission statement is impact over income. You personally host an event called the Impact Event or Impact Effect or
Impact Effect.
Effect,
Yep.
right? Okay, so talk to me a little bit about why that word is so important to you. I heard you kind of move that word over to disrupt, like your version of impact. So just
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about why that word that's on your shirt is so near and dear to your heart.
Yeah. So I have interviewed hundreds of people, whether that's at an event, in real time, on a podcast, on my podcast. I've asked people on their podcast. So the question that I always ask is, how do you define the word impact? And how do you show up and provide impact in your life today? And out of all the people that I've interviewed, there's two things that most people bring up when I ask that question, what impact means. The first thing is change. Impact is change. The other is influence. So if you have change and you have influence and you have impact, that's all great and dandy. But how do we kick it up a notch? Impact is a word, it's the name of my company, but it's an overused word, right? So I have now started to give keynotes and talk through this idea of disruption. And if you look up the definition of disruption, it's radical change. So, for someone who doesn't necessarily believe in impact or is doing stuff selfishly and not for others, impact is a heavy word for them because they're transitioning from doing stuff for them to impacting others typically, right? Well, what about the folks that focus on impact and are going through the kind of the motions and thinking they're creating impact, but in reality, other people aren't having radical change? So I like to talk about disruption because that's where I think you make the most change, which in turn makes the most impact. And how do you actually disrupt? Well, putting time, effort, resources, and revenue behind those changes you want to make, right? And a lot of people kind of talk through, okay, well, I want to do community work and I want to do this. And
Too vague, yeah.
And
Objection, vague. The lawyer, the former attorney in me says, objection, vague and ambiguous. Because then it's not real, and unfortunately, right? I want to affect my community locally. I want to touch 1,000 souls. Like, what does that look like? Like, let's get granular. Like, so let's just touch. Can I touch on radical change? Like the word radical. Like,
it's depth for me.
Okay, for you. Okay,
it's depth.
Yeah, I like that.
So, if I put out a post, and I just did this last week, hey, I've got 3 ideas I want to help the community with. Would you be interested? I need a partner in this, right? I think like 20 people commented, yes. Well, whatever. I DM'd every single person, and 2 people actually responded, right? So that to me was an example of, I want to create impact and I want to help the community.
Yeah.
But the granular reality is no one actually wants to go deep and build something in order to do that. So for me, whether it's community work, whether it's within my digital community impact effect, whether it's outside of that, whether it's speaking on stage, whether it's throwing an event, collaborating, partnering, I want to bring radical change and disrupt, and I want to do it with people who actually are going to sit there and provide strategic time, energy, effort, and resources.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, because so many people want to do it and want to help, but when it comes down to the details, the granular, and leveraging resources or funds or whatever is needed.
Well, I think the sacrifice is where you lose most of them, to your
sacrifice.
point. Like, how many people even sacrifice 4 minutes to respond to your DM, or how many people have said they're going to help you get people to your event, and then they want to not only show up, but they want to show up at no cost because they know Jim. I'm the man. I know the guy.
You've probably seen some of that over the years.
We're in the same boat, yeah. when you realize how difficult it is to fill seats right now, like given the fact that there's so much white noise, a.k.a. bullshit, in this industry right now, everybody's got their guard up, and so there's that old adage: it takes 7 touches to even get somebody to maybe convert to something, right? Even a low ticket offer. I think it's taken far more than 7 value drops. We call it duck, duck, goose. It's like duck, 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 duck. Oh, we might have a potential goose here.
But I also think too, the reason why is because, and I think this in every industry, right? Like, I'm not singling out professional development. I've had a career in hospitality, real estate, F&B, beverages, and I've seen it in every industry. So as I've moved through different careers and different paths, it's not just professional development is seeing that. I think every industry has those waves because something becomes hot, something becomes attractive, something becomes profitable, and then you have all these people move into that space who are seeking profit.
Sure.
But I think the difference is showing up to seek impact and disruption, and then the profit comes. And you hear everybody talk about that, like, oh, I just want to be aligned, and I'm grinding and I'm hustling, and then I've been doing this, and it's helping people, and then all of a sudden, boom, right? And then the floodgates kind of open, and your messaging hits, or the timing works, or what you're coaching or consulting on becomes popular or hip or trendy.
Yeah.
So I think that's that constant repetition for the right reasons will allow you to get to that point where it blows up.
So back up real quick and say that again. It's the constant repetition. What?
For the right reasons.
For the right reasons. I think that's where you lose them, because I personally preach consistency with persistency, right? So it's not just enough to show up. It's how you're showing up and why you're showing up, and being able to push through that for as long as it takes to quote unquote have that that water dam break moment. That yeah. Most people won't stay in that same lane long enough, because they're not built for it. But my argument would be, you'll find a way if this is truly what you're supposed to be doing, right? If you truly believe in impact over income, or profit, purpose over profit, because again, like you said, most of them say, oh, there's a new thing going on over there, shiny object syndrome. Let me go run over to this world and let me take my crack at it. And my ego says, I've got the Midas touch because I made money in real estate, or I made money here, so let me scoot over there. Let me cut and paste somebody's model, show everybody I'm the man. And if it doesn't hit, I bounce, or when it's done hitting, because I did catch a wave, I bounce, and I was never really in it for the right reasons. So,
all right. So what you just said is my life last year. Meaning, came out of real estate, making a ton of money, doing 50 deals a year, just crushing it, absolutely. And realized as I was having a child and a newborn, first kid, new marriage, that's not the lifestyle I want to live. I can't actually service as many families and people and have the impact and effect on as many as I'm capable of doing, right? So I move over, I throw this massive conference, go completely bananas, right? I pick a venue that can hold 970 people.
Go big, baby.
For a conference.
For your first conference.
For my first
cool,
conference.
Just so we're all clear, audience. Yeah, this isn't like, let me get through proof of concept. Let me get 5 guys to show up at the Y for a lunch and learn. No, let me go ham. Go, keep going. I like this.
So going big and having that perspective that you just said, coming out of something and thinking that I have the Midas touch and it's going to turn to gold. And it's actually funny because that moment, and let me step back here. The conference was gold. Financially,
took a L.
It was dog shit. Okay, so let's just make sure that the quality was there, the influence, the opportunity. I mean, I'm still getting text messages, and it was last October, right? But the financial side of it was a massive failure. And as I was thinking through what you were saying was, do you know how many people told me to stop doing this after? Dude, you lost $100,000. Why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just getting started, baby.
Yeah.
Like what business have you sold that the first year you made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars? And then also, let me remind you real quick that this is one event. So I've had one stab at this last year.
Yeah.
Right? Like this isn't, I don't throw conferences every 3 weeks. So if you lose a sponsor or lose a client or an ad set doesn't work or you lose team members, right? Like for this year's conference, I just lost a team member. I'm rebuilding it right now.
Yeah.
Integral piece of this operation.
Do you mind if I ask you why?
Her sister passed away of cancer. So dealing with family stuff, high anxiety, things like that. Sure. But that happens, right? And
100%. I just didn't know if it was like, you find out real quick who's really cut for this, who's really willing to jump on your boat, pick up the oar, and start rowing. So,
and I'm going to talk about that because you said something earlier about people saying they're going to help you. So let's definitely come back to that. Yeah. But through that process, you've got mentors, you've got other business owners like, oh, why would you do that? And this and that. And I'm like, dude, this is one event, 1 year. Like we're just getting started. The average business doesn't potentially profit until 3 years. And the average business is working day in, week out, month out, where I'm working, but it's to this 1 day or 2 day conference, right? So I don't have as many reps on this thing. So in reality, I would actually double it and say, let me do this for 6 years before I expect to turn a profit, right? But the reality is that won't take me 6 years. But if I look at the nuts and bolts and how the statistics look for a regular business, I could easily just double that and still have the same expectation or outcome from what the stats say. But in turn, how do I speed up that process? And I think by doing that is how do I actually be intentional about how to disrupt, create impact, and truly help people? And I think with all the noise and with all the conferences, and it's funny now because I had to go through this. So I can sniff out if a host or someone pitching, based on what they say, based on what they pitch, if they actually give a shit about the attendees.
100%.
Or it's some bullshit with no depth because they haven't been intentional, they haven't put the hours in, and they haven't thought about how they truly want to impact the audience. And I just listened to someone right now. They have Ed Milet coming. They have Jen Gottlieb coming. They've got, I think, Brad Lee coming, right? Sure. They've got all these big names, which they've clearly spent $150,000 to $250,000 on. And the pitch has no depth, and it's just about the speaker. And I'm like,
so you're filling seats, but you're not making a dent. And it's more important to people. It's that vanity metric of I filled a room with 1,500 people. Cool. But I impacted 5. And only because, yes, right, they were in a position to hear one line from one person that altered the trajectory. But it still wasn't intentional by design.
It wasn't intentional by design. And what I'm realizing in this professional development industry is, and you'll see it, is someone releases a book and they go speak for discounted fees. And they come into the conference, and the agenda is to sell books, to talk about the book, and it's all about them. They don't give a shit about the audience. They give a shit about more book sales and better marketing and more opportunities to upsell those clients, right? Which in turn is business, and I totally get that. But if you're releasing a book on sales, and I'm having a leadership conference to make someone a better leader, yeah, and I'm putting you on my stage, I'm not being intentional unless your talks about leadership within a sales team, sure, leadership within a company that's, 95% of staff are sales. And we know that's not all businesses, right? So really trying to be intentional about who you attract based on the content. And if I look at a lineup and I'm like, okay, Jamie Lee Kerna just released a book, and this person just released a book, and this person just released a book, and they're completely different concepts, then there's no intentionality in setting up that conference to truly have the impact based on what that conference is designed for. And I'm not shitting on people that are releasing books. I'm just saying that all these speakers are jumping into these conferences that actually don't align with what the conference is supposed to be. And then what happens, and I'm kind of giving away my secret of what I learned last year and I've been studying, and I'm happy to do that because I want people to have impactful, beneficial conferences. But think about what feeling and what action a speaker is going to leave the audience with, and make your decision to hire them based on that. Not what book, not what discounted fee, not what popularity, and not what celebrity status. Because my experience, and not my experience with everybody, but the bigger the celebrity, the more problems, the less they care about the audience, the less they care about you, the less they want to market your event, the less they want to help you. They don't answer your phone calls as much as the folks that care about the audience.
Yeah, I think most people, when they choose someone with the clout, with the following, celebrity status, if you will, they're banking on, a good chunk of their audience size being, so it's just ticket sales. It's if this guy does a couple swipe ups, he'll probably get 30, 40, 60 people, 200 people, some big names out there.
And the reality of that.
Oh, very well. Yeah. So
that doesn't convert tickets at all.
Well, here's how far we go. So I'm 3 years in on this game too. And we've run 14 events, and we've lost a lot of money, right? Especially out of the gate. But you learn, you get reps and you learn. And one thing that we're very intentional about is, we want to craft the actual journey. We call it the customer journey. It starts it doesn't even start the minute they walk in. It starts the minute that they buy their ticket. We've got a lead up process. And so to your point, in order to fit into my agenda, I don't need you to have 1 million followers. I need you to be in alignment with our assignment.
Yes. And alignment with the assignment. Let's go. I love that.
And even then, I'm going to strategically put you in a place that fits the customer journey from the minute they bought a ticket to the minute that they leave. And not only does your content have to be on point with where I need you to go, there's a heavy no pitch from stage policy.
Yep.
I can't afford to pay you, so if you can't come, that's okay too, right? Believe in this mission. If you want to edify the heck out of me in the program, great, but you also don't have to, because we do a pretty good job of that. But that's kind of my MO when I go speak at places, is like, I'm just here to edify the heck out of whoever decided to put me on their stage. And that's really, if I can add value to your audience and let them know that they made an awesome decision and they're in the right room talking to the right people in terms of whoever's hosting. So I have to believe in the host first and foremost.
Well, that's a big piece of it.
And if I can edify, let's say, so if I spoke of something of yours, if I can edify the heck out of you and drop something that leaves a feeling, right, like you said, and then a call to action, otherwise we wasted our time. I cannot stand mic drop moments only. So I'm going to go in there, I'm going to say a bunch of cool one-liners, and you're going to write them down, and you're going to get goosebumps, and you're going to get... and
then nothing's going to change tomorrow.
Yeah, I call it the bookmark boner. Like, you literally, like, you bookmark that little page of your journal because you got a little tingle, a little boner because someone said something cool. You never go back to it.
No.
You never review it. But that speaker was phenomenal, and you tell your friends. But the thing... So anyway, create a feeling...
Let me tell you a quick story about
100%,
that.
100%.
Phil M. Jones, met him at a mastermind, was talking to him like, hey, I just decided I'm going to write this book around relationships, this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, what are you going to call it? I go, relationships or rocket ships. He's like, that's cute.
I love it. Yeah,
you
get people's attention with that.
But he goes, so what's the book about? Where's the depth? And as I was talking, he's like, that's cute. That's all. That's all you have is something that's cute.
Yeah.
And I admire that because he's pushing me to really think deep on where that content's going to go and how that's going to help people truly, to not just drop and get the purchase of the book because
you'll get it because the tagline's cute, and if you get a cute cover and you put it in the airport, you win.
And yeah.
But you didn't win because no one really got any depth from
Dude,
it. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
I got
perfect.
full body tingles going through that, and he said that in a 30-second conversation, and it changed so much about me. It changed the work I'm doing. It changed the level and depth that I'm trying to do this at. I'm also testing more and trying and adapting and just doing stuff that's out of the box that I've thought about deeply, and it's hitting and it's working and it's changing people's lives. And I'm like, wow, I was that guy. I was the cute one-liner person a year ago. I was.
I'm still guilty of it at times.
I was.
I'll hear something and regurgitate my version of it, but I really catch myself now in the moment, like you said. And that's just reps, too. That's like I'm on stage.
Exactly.
I just said 4 things, and I watch people get the bookmark boner and scribble something down. But it wasn't cohesive. I didn't take them on a journey, and they're not going to do anything with it.
Yep.
I have a problem with that. So let me just slow it down. Let me talk a little. Let me draw the audience in. How can I create? Because, again, we know this line. This is one of my famous, one of our most popular, not mine, but one I love. Is no one cares about the watch, the shoes, the car, the shit that you wear, the followers you have. They really, only thing they're going to remember is how you made them feel.
Yep.
And so, like you said, so many speakers are jumping on stages for self. And how can I get more followers and more of this and get some really cool reels chopped up out of it or whatever? So they're like pushing for those little mic drop moments. But it doesn't tell. Like Ed Mylett tells a beautiful. Like he's one of the best speakers I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. I've been on a stage with him years ago at RoofCon. I say that I was like a little pee-pee speaker on like a panel.
Hey, you shared a stage with him, bro. Let's not downplay this, dude. I haven't, you know.
But I've also seen him speak. I even took my wife to see him when he came to Nashville because like I've studied a lot of these guys, and the difference between Mylett and some of these other ones is he does craft a journey. He takes you on an experience.
Yep.
And I think that's why people are so drawn to not only him as a speaker, but the way he conducts himself on his podcast, et cetera. So there's some awesome ones out there, but there's a lot of fluff out there that's doing nothing.
And that was me. Right? Like I'm guilty of all that stuff in the beginning. You know, when I first started speaking, it was about how can Jim Morris get more followers? How can Jim Morris make more money and consult? How can Jim Morris, build his brand? How can Jim Morris leverage this speaking gig into these podcasts and to get into the room with this person and to be a guest and not have to pay for that? And that was what I was doing. And that's what mentorship was telling me to do. The person I was paying as a coach was telling me to do that stuff. And it was a moment where my wife was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's up with your content? And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This isn't me. I did it for about a month. And I was like, ugh. Yeah. Like, I was deleting stuff because I'm like, that's embarrassing. Like, what am I doing? And that's when I really had to find myself. Really find who Jim Morris was, who he wants to show up as, and what am I going to do with the level of depth, consistency, and quality And how am I actually going to show up and change the world? And that's where I landed on human connection. I sat with myself for 48 hours and was like, what do I know the best? How can I help people the most? And what's the most important thing to me? And I went back. We were talking about story earlier. I don't need to get into the details, but I went back through all those stories of my life and realized what went well and what went wrong. And it all came back to human connection. And then I started doing a ton of research. Staying up all night, reading scientific studies and what they did at this and at Harvard and MIT and Stanford and this test group and what they did in the UK and how this works and what the internet's doing and social media and young boys and fatalities and suicide. Like, I went down all these paths and realized, wow, human connection is about to die like what social media has done to connecting humans, right? Like, social media was so great by bringing people together, and you saw that person from high school and that, ex-girlfriend that you really broke up and you still wanted to be friends, but you got to reconnect, and they've got a family and I've got a family. It's not weird. It's platonic, but it's cool. That was like the beginning of social media. Now you have social media just stealing people's time, soul, all of it, right?
Soul snatching, 100% soul snatching, yeah.
So now let's look at AI and technology. Not even AI, just technology, right? It's doing something similar because we're like, oh, let's do these automations and let's do that. But and let's use AI and let's use this. And I use it too. But I think society is going too much into tech and removing the human connection. And I know from my experience, some people I've consulted, some people in the community that I talk to, it's actually hurting their business, and they're not getting more leads, and they're getting more conversations that aren't converting.
Because nothing's real, nothing's authentic. So the problem is, and I hate the word authenticity because it's getting beyond used right now incorrectly. Yeah. So when I hear tech, the first thing I think is convenient. Because that's why tech is to make something that was a thing less of a thing or less of a daunting task or something quicker, faster. Essentially, when I hear convenient, my brain then jumps to comfort. So tech equals comfort, and comfort is where I never want to find myself.
Yes.
Which is why I do have an issue. And while we can all argue we don't want to go down the AI rabbit hole, but there's all these efficiencies that could help per se. Like, you still have to pick and choose, because if you just adopt everything that there is that tech is throwing, you become the most comfortable human being ever, and nobody grows in their comfort zone. And it's frightening. It is frightening. It's definitely a fine dance to figure out.
So that's what I want to do, man.
Yeah.
I want to teach people how to use tech, but to build tech in a human way, because humans sell to humans.
Yeah.
And like, the reality of it is, someone, I think Brad actually asked me when I was on his podcast, he was like, well, what if you buy a product? I'm like, what if you have a problem with the product?
Sure.
You're buying it from a human. You're talking to a human. There's customer service.
Yeah, you may have bought it from an ad that switched to a bot, or that just sold you because the celebrity had it, whatever. But the reality is, at some point, if there's an issue with said product, you don't want to talk to a bot. You don't want to talk to a recording. You don't want to talk to an email. You want to talk to a human, because in your eyes, you purchased this. Ultimately, there was a human somewhere.
Exactly.
At least press the button on the tech machine that created the tech.
Exactly.
I hope so.
Exactly.
But I think we're getting away from that too, which is frightening.
And now, I called an office here in Nashville to that aligns with the conference, and my thought process was like, this is the perfect company, because people who are going to be in the room, based on my research, is their avatar. Yeah. Like, they have to have a budget to acquire new customers. Why not come to Impact Effect 24? This is perfectly lined up for your customer base. And a robot answered the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, "Is this AI? This doesn't sound like a Tiffany I've ever talked to."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Why would you ask that?" And I was like, "Are you really not going to answer? You're not going to tell the truth that this is a robot?" And they're like, "Why would you ask that again?" And I'm like, I said, "Hey, this is a fucking robot," and I hung up.
Yeah.
Well, someone real called me back like 30 minutes later and left a voicemail. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, if this is the filter,
you've lost you lost it, and
but there's your perfect example of tech that's not helping, right?
Exactly.
Even though people lean on it, like, you mean I can hire or replace three secretaries with one bot?
It's just going to be something where we are going to push fast, because tech is fast and it's getting faster than ever, and we're going to get to this point where we miss human connection. And if you look at the studies, everybody's probably heard this one, but like if you are lonely, and loneliness is one of the major causes of death that causes your health to deplenish. But being loneliness is like if you smoked 15 cigarettes a day every day for your entirety of life.
So it has the same biological effect on you
Exactly.
internally. Okay.
So they did a study and they compared the two.
Interesting.
Loneliness to smoking, I think, 14 or 15 cigarettes a day. So there's direct correlation to that. Well, when you're running a business and you have no one to talk to, whether that's customers, potential customers, or even your own team, what's that going to create for you as a zillionaire?
Yeah.
Loneliness. And you've worked your whole life, didn't smoke cigarettes, didn't smoke weed, didn't drink, didn't take drugs, work out every day, eat healthy, do all the things that you're supposed to do for 60 years and croak because of loneliness.
That's, I work strictly with male entrepreneurs, and one of the things we notice and we try to pull them out from is fighting alone, because they all go down this road, and entrepreneurship is the loneliest journey of them all, and they think they're the only ones with those problems until you put them in a room with 1,000 other guys that have the same problem. But yeah, that's an interesting one around the health effects, specific to loneliness. Yeah.
And to your point, like that's why you're building this community of guys. Like you were at the event with a couple of your guys the other night, and it is a community. Like them talking and sharing similar opinions and stories, and it was like kind of what we talked about. Like they're talking about it, and I'm like, that's community. Right. And one guy was telling me, he made the transition to commercial roofing, and, that was a big jump, and, all those things. So it was like, well, we need community. And it doesn't, and for me, man, it doesn't matter if it's impact effect. It doesn't matter if it's the program. It doesn't matter what community is. My advice is get around people, because here's the deal. And I was saying this earlier, like I just lost my assistant. Right. And, that she was doing a major piece of my business. I mean, she online business manager, right? Like doing a major piece. And I'm like, oh, wow, I got a lot going on. I got this event this week. I got another event next week. I'm traveling. I got virtuals, webinars, podcasts, all this stuff. I'm running a community. I'm running a consulting business. Yep. I have all these things, and I was just feeling the pressure cave in. And I called up my buddy, John Mediana, and it's like, hey, bro, this and that, and we're going to talk, and let me help you with this. Have you thought about that, right? And it was like a 30-minute conversation that completely changed the trajectory of this week.
Yeah.
The week I'm in right now, sitting right here, was because...
You reached out to a brother who spent 30 minutes of his day, set everything aside, because that's what's not happening. You know what I mean?
And that's what's not happening.
Yeah.
But for someone, even for me, who freaking talks on stages and promotes human connection...
Well, he's a beautiful human being, though, for what it's worth. We'll shout out Mediana right now, because the reality is... Most people, I think Hyder posted this the other day. He said, make a habit of reaching out to people when you don't need something.
Yeah.
And guys like Mediana and Hyder are the guys that you can call and just vent to. And it's, a lot of people might pick up that call. For example, like, a lot of people out here, you've got a list, you've got entrepreneurs. Some people might see you coming in on an incoming call and be like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take his call, because at some point, it's like you have this expectation of reciprocation.
Yes.
No matter how far down the line it is.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
And it's going to come across you in your energy in a heartbeat. But what happens if you just park all that and say, I'm just going to genuinely be here for this dude. I'm going to hold space. I'm going to ideate with him. We're going to come up with something. And if I can relieve some pressure and he can change his week or feel less stressed, great. And if nothing ever comes of it for me, bro, like that's perfect. Why? Because my man upstairs is always watching. The universe makes no mistakes. So anyway, I'll go down a rabbit hole with that. But yeah, it's
But I agree so much with that, because there's people in my phone book that I stopped taking their calls, not because I don't like them. I'm sick of I'm sick of getting a phone call to create a to-do list for me. Right? Yeah, we're friends. Yeah, I love you. But every time you call, I now have to add something to my to-do list.
Yeah.
And you're getting a benefit and I'm not. And again, you can sniff it out. When someone's picking up the phone. And quite honestly, very humbly, I bet you people think that about me.
Why is that? Why do you think that? That's just their reflection of you, or you think you've
done
that?
I just think...
I think we're all guilty of it to a
That's
degree.
What I'm saying.
I
think I've done that to people. I think I've, I was thinking about it today. I just asked a friend, hey, I need some space for an event. And I didn't even ask them how they were. At least I'm recognizing and trying to change for the positive.
Step one is awareness. Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
and I'm not perfect, and no one's perfect, but like I think I do a good job of it. But again, I wanted to share this because I'm not the best, and I don't think anybody is the best. And it's important to just have that awareness so I can be better next time. Not like, to beat myself up or not to beat anybody else up. And quite honestly, when people have started to do that to me more and more lately, especially when you throw a conference, especially when 1 million people want to be speakers, and that's really popular right now, right? It's like, hey, the last 3 times you hit me up was to speak on my stage. Like, I just want to let you know that I actually value you more than someone who just hits me up for things. And I'm like, coaching, but doing it in a way where I actually care, right? Like, I'm not actually saying, like, you should go do this, but I just identifying it in a nice way. And I have someone who I said, hey, man, like, my feelings are just hurt when you call because it's always you need something.
How was that received?
What, dude? Like, holy shit. Like, in the moment, they went, holy shit.
So
I have called you the last 3 times asking you to introduce me to this person, asking you about, your event, if I can bring someone to it.
But you're saying it felt genuine, like he was truly unaware that he was doing this.
He was.
Okay, so that's different, right? And that's perfect because all we can do is that's my favorite word, feedback, right? Let me give you some feedback, my man. This is how I feel when you keep jamming me up. It feels just like you're only calling for a favor, and then he has to sit in that, and if it stings a little, cool, right?
Yep.
And then process it, and then course correct, and everyone wins. But here's the thing too.
But I care enough to tell that person.
So we call it pulling their card. Like if you don't have a group of friends that will pull your card, you don't have a group of friends.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of people don't. We all have these close circle of friends where we kind of have this covert contract that you buy my bullshit and I'll buy yours. And you show up, you play small, and that's okay because I'll play small. We'll just live in our comfort zone together, and we'll tell each other we're awesome, and we'll co-sign shit, and none of us will ever win, and none of us will ever grow. But I like this. All right, so I know you're going to show up and do something I should probably talk to you about, but I won't do it, and then you won't do it to me.
Yep.
It's like, what world is that? How does that benefit anybody? Like I had a call today.
I call it fake news.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Fake news.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I blasted a member today vocally in front of like 70 other members. And I told him, I said, this is I try to put the warning out there. This is likely going to trigger you, but this is feedback you need to hear. And I'm doing it in a group setting, which also triggers some people because I think it's a coaching opportunity for everybody.
Well, you share the opportunity, so people go, oh, I'm doing that. Let me change too.
Well, I've had 4 people hit me up on the side and say, hey, I needed to hear that this morning, right? And, again, some of these guys are obviously, they're paying me to coach them. So it's a different relationship that allows me to give that feedback.
Of course.
But what does it look like with your friends? To just be like, hey, man, you're playing small. You've already shown your ass. I've seen what you're capable of. I know you're better than this. I know your intention is not to take from me, but it's coming across that way. So I figured I'd point it out for you, provide the feedback so that you don't do this in other circles. Because I love you, brother. What does that look like?
Well, and I think the key in all that is deliverability and how you do it. You know how many people have told me I'm an asshole? Because I was just way too direct.
Because you're Boston, bro.
Well, that's where it comes from, right? Like I've
East Coast equals
I've
asshole.
never hurt more people's feelings living in Nashville than all the years in Boston. And I say that jokingly, but also somewhat serious because I am doing it because I care. I am doing it because I want to move fast. You got shit to do. I got shit to do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it. But I would say it's also detrimental to me that I grew up in Boston under that culture because of how I delivered that news. No one needs to be, it doesn't need to be delivered the way that I was delivering it and grown up to deliver stuff like that, right? Like, I do have a heart. I do have a conscience. Like,
but that's
I
all
don't
you
wanna
knew.
hurt
That's all you
people.
knew coming here. That's all you still know, right?
So,
Yeah.
like, when you mirror Boston and you mirror Nashville, I've got this beautiful mix of like, yeah, I still move fast. Yeah, I still have high expectations. Yeah, I don't want to sit around and talk about bullshit. But also, how I communicate has really changed and understanding and delivering certain direct news if it needs to be fast in a different way or manner. So it's a beauty of mirroring the two together.
Have you found yourself having been forced to slow down at times since you moved here?
100%. And I think it's one of the best things I could have done.
Yeah, great answer. So when I moved here from Cali 3 years ago, and I grew up in the South, I tell the story all the time and been trying to get back to my roots forever, but I distinctly remember just the driving patterns alone. Like,
Oh! You want to talk about driving, dude?
I
think
did
my
more work on
wife
myself.
still doesn't want to get in the car with me. Like,
Well, so I didn't know. I thought it was illegal to make a right turn on red out here because, like, I couldn't tell you how many people I've been behind where it's a red light and they're in the right lane and they don't move. And I'm like, what are we doing? I actually had to look up the driving code, vehicle code. I'm like, this is not real. I think I've already blown through like a lot of right turns. And sure enough, you can do a ride on red all day long. It's all good, man. I'll get there when I get there. Like,
I told my friend Brandon Vaca, good friend since grade school, I think second grade we've been friends, and I told him, I said, I've never seen so many people driving down the road on the highway in the third or second lane and like looking up at the clouds.
yeah,
like
just taking in life.
And I'm like, and at first it was like, what's wrong with people? And then there was a realization of like, I don't even look at all my surrounding all the time. So I don't know that person. I don't know what's going on, but maybe they're moving really fast and they're just taking it all in.
Yeah.
So there's that mirror of like, I can learn from both different cultures. And I think that's the beauty of the United States is you get all these different cultures, all these different experiences. And I think, and I do the same thing in business, like what's great that I can grab onto and what do I want to grab onto so I realize to stay away from it.
Yeah, sift out the dirt and keep the gold. You know, like we're always like panhandling almost. And you're definitely seeing that in Nashville, by the way, this diversified culture, because I think they're saying 135 people a day are moving here or something.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
I'm already protecting it. I'm like, hey, my buddies from Cali call, and I'm like, yeah, it's not that cool out here. stay home, my man. Yeah, man, it's definitely been just the growth I've seen in I think we just hit 3 years, and it's been crazy out here. But I absolutely love it. Like I said, I've always raised my kids like we were from the South. I feel like we had to hose the Cali off of them every time they came home from school. Never quite agreed with obviously politics out there, but the slowdown has been beautiful for us. Yeah, it's always interesting to see because I think we're similar. Like I've been called Jersey Shore a million times. I move very New York, very very boom boom aggressive fast, and so I was forced to slow down. But it's been so beautiful. It's been crazy. Yeah,
and I think too, like especially as entrepreneurs and business owners, we move fast because we want to do things quick. And what I've realized is like a great idea doesn't need to be operated and executed right now, but to not diminish that great idea or to not diminish that opportunity, but just put it on pause.
Just park it for a second. Yeah.
And that's what I call it, a parking lot list.
Oh, can you say it can you say like
parking lot?
Yeah, can you do it? Yeah.
Fucking parking lot list.
So you
Over
say
in
pack
Harvard
it, you
Square.
say pack it, and I just say park
Yeah.
it, and that's how we know. Yeah, okay.
Car keys, khakis.
Yeah. That's what I like that one.
So when I first moved here, man, my boss, he was like, dude, are you like from England or something?
Wow. It's probably the hat too. He was like, okay, the hat maybe
True.
he's Scottish, British.
Yeah.
Also, what part of where like you like Boston?
I grew up in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Moved into Boston when I was 18. Went to
Okay.
UMass Boston.
Nice.
Lived in the hood in Dorchester for a while.
Ate at Wahlburgers.
Yeah. Wahlburgers is terrible. I
Is
wouldn't
it?
recommend it. It's overpriced, shitty cheeseburgers. But he's a gazillionaire.
Sure.
But no, man, living in the city, ended up living right on Comm Ave and, like right outside of Fenway Park. So it was just an amazing experience.
I've actually never been, and I've been.
Oh,
I've
dude,
been
then we gotta go,
everywhere.
man. Yeah.
I had when I was doing the collection thing, I had a couple call centers in Jersey. My wife hated to fly in or stay in Jersey, so we would stay right across the George Washington. So she would stay in the city. So we'd fly into New York, like JFK usually, and then I would just commute over.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in Jersey and New York, and then a ton, of course, West Coast in the South and stuff. But yeah, I've never ever been to Boston. Yeah, we should go check
We'll
that
go
out.
up there, man. There's a big real estate developer. He's also director of movies and all this stuff. I think there's an opportunity that he wants me to come up and talk to his team. So maybe we go take that ride together, man.
I'm 100% interested. Yeah.
Cool,
brother. All right, so real quick, let's. I'm not sure when we'll drop this, but I'll just be intentional and drop it on time. Let's talk about your event coming up, and I'll find a way to get this thing out because I love you and I want you to win. So
Cool.
What does that look like?
So Impact Effect 24, it's going to be in downtown Nashville, September 17th and 18th. The focus is a leadership experience. And the reason why I'm so heavy on the word experience is because my belief and what I've experienced at conferences is one speaker, another speaker, another speaker, another speaker, and then I leave with a notebook full of things to go do. So we want to create an experience where a speaker talks about where they're going to bring you from stage, gets off stage, and works with you in real time and brings you through a facilitation so you can work on your business in real time at the conference and have the opportunity to ask the speaker facilitator questions, may be able to, give you the mic and talk through kind of where you started in the facilitation and where you landed, and really give the opportunity to engage with the audience. For some reason, my heart just tells me like there's more impact to be made when you're actually working with someone on what they need, not necessarily the agenda that you need, right? So we can facilitate, we can bring concept, but really getting people to work on what their business needs based on the guided facilitation of that expert speaker facilitator. The other cool thing is there's everybody's sitting at round tables. So as they're facilitating, there's opportunity to mastermind with people at your table.
Sure.
The second half of the day, we switched everybody.
We only do roundtables for just all these nuances. I love that you do.
You
Because at the end of the day, when you're sitting side by side, like you said, the opportunity for connection, the energy's not there. When you're roundtables and you're connected, yeah, I love it.
And then you have the facilitator guiding it and pushing it, right? And like our MCs will also be part of that experience too. So our MCs will be there to help, to probe, to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I really want it to be an experience because I know how it is, man. Time and energy is super important. And to go to a conference, 9-10 hours to learn, to then schedule out how to take action, now you're looking at maybe 30-40 hours to implement one thing. Well, how do we open the mind and actually have you make progress and take action at the conference in real time?
Yeah, can we move the needle in 9 hours versus get you really close to starting to do something and then hoping you go home and do it?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, I
Exactly.
love that. I absolutely love that.
And then we do a human connection rally. So there's this guided experience where I remove the awkwardness to ask deep questions, and I lead that. And
so
then
you remove the awkwardness to get them super awkward by asking them deep questions. I love it. Good.
I remove it by saying, we're going to do this, and it's facilitated by me.
Yeah.
So the person that's to your left that you don't know,
Yeah.
it's okay to ask them, what are your dreams and what legacy do you want to live before you die?
Sure.
You wouldn't ask that person that unless you maybe started to have a good conversation and worked up to that. So let's remove that workup and dive deep to see if there's alignment with core values.
Yeah.
So we're just doing some things that are different, unique, shooting podcasts, interviews, giving people content. This is also an event where, I do webinars leading up so that way attendees know how to squeeze the juice out of the conference.
I love that. We spoke about that 2 days ago when we were hanging out at your buddy's house. Kind of pre-gaming people, pre-framing them to like, do you want to actually get the most out of this? Don't just come and stare and, like you said, write down something and say you're going to do it and then leave. Like, let me show you how to actually, and then, and you can speak to this from a place of experience. I've been to a million conferences. Let me show you the strategy
how I do it
to get to squeeze the most juice out of this thing. So I want you to come to my event and leave it like nothing you've ever left before.
Yeah.
Right? Experience something you've never experienced before.
And you know what's crazy? I have the responsibility, and everybody else out there throwing conferences has the responsibility to do the same thing that I'm doing, and not a lot of people are doing it. And I'm not saying to boast or brag about myself. I'm saying if you take the responsibility to take people's hard-earned dollars
And time.
and energy,
Yeah.
and you don't give a fuck enough to teach them how to make the most out of that experience.
Turn your camera off and get off the stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, talking about cameras, I went to a conference and they were like, you can't bring your camera in. You can't bring your lav mics in. And I'm like, so what we're going to do is bring your cameras.
Sure.
You should be shooting interviews in between every session at every break. You should be asking speakers to get on your podcast after the event ends, or we actually have an opportunity for you to go downstairs, grab a speaker, and go shoot a podcast. So it's like, how do you squeeze the juice? And I'll give you a perfect example. I talked about Phil Jones earlier. Well, how do you think I got the opportunity with Phil Jones? He was a speaker at a conference. I brought my camera. I bought my mics. I'm the only person at that conference that asked him to shoot a podcast with me. We had such a great conversation during that podcast that he invited me out to Times Square in New York City for a mastermind. Talk about squeezing the juice.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm like hearkening back to December 12th, 2018. I was at my first like mega conference and I chased a guy down after he spoke from stage and I said, me, you, lunch. And he tells it hilariously because he says I was like I'm a big dude, right? So he's like, He was just like this scary.
Intimidated?
He thought like I owed him money or something. He said I was coming through the crowd like, what's the big guy on Happy Gilmore that's like, hey, I think that's Mr. Gilmore's jacket. He said I was coming through like crazy, and but it worked because at the end of the day we ended up having lunch, and then that lunch led to a 5-year relationship. Plus now he stays at my house all the time, so he was my mentor forever. He's still my mentor. I shouldn't say that, but now it went from like father son to like brother best friend relationship. But that doesn't happen if I don't say, there's 1,200 people in this room, San Diego, California. I'm getting lunch with this dude. I'm figuring it out.
Yep.
And again, the fact that people aren't coming equipped.
And you said something, you're like the crazy guy. If anybody's listening and comes to Impact Effect 24, be the crazy guy.
Yeah.
Okay? Like
we're equipped for it, yeah.
I want you to do that. Like I want people to be waiting when the speaker, after they're done and the speaker comes back into the audience, I want people to be waiting at that entrance to talk to them, to ask them to be on their podcast, to ideate, to go deeper and further and build human connection. Yeah. So the speakers are ready for that. I just did a post yesterday. I'm like, here's all the speakers.
Yeah.
Don't come to live conferences if you don't prepare. Here's my pro advice. Go DM them. Tell them you're excited to meet them. You just bought a ticket. And, if they've got 5 minutes, you'd love to just, learn more about them and how you can bring value.
Yeah.
Dude, if you DM someone a couple times before an event, you come to this webinar, you learn some secrets to squeeze the juice, and then you show up and then you take a photo with that person, now you have opportunity and a reason to DM them after the event to say, hey, look at this photo. It was so great meeting you. Blah, 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 blah. Let's catch up. Let's grab lunch. Let's shoot a webinar, whatever.
I got to do that to Ed because I'm gonna stalk him. we ended up. It was funny. We actually ended up in the same elevator. And it was exactly what you think. It was like super awkward. But I'm really loud and obnoxious, so we definitely hit it off and started chopping it up. But and I took one little. My wife always laughs at me at that. She's like, she calls it be the douchebag. She's like, be the guy that gets the photo with everybody. Because I've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of like pretty powerful people, and I just sit back and kind of watch the room, and I'll make conversation with, but I refuse. I'm not a small talk guy. Like I would never walk up to somebody, that I admired and be like, "Hey, bro, like, what's going on?" Like I don't know what to do with my hands. Like I'm just not that dude. So it's like, if we find a reason to talk, we'll talk. But yeah, that's that. So what you're outlining, by the way, what I'm hearing, and I hope everybody is hearing this right now, is just what he's mentioned so far, and he's not giving away all the gold. This event is going to have a larger impact than any event you could think of because he's lining you up for success. He's telling you, come be the crazy guy. He's telling the speakers, be prepared to take 5-10 minute sidebars with whoever asks because I've already made this promise to my audience.
Exactly.
And that doesn't happen. It never happens. You get the guy. I've had guys fly in. They get off the plane. They just literally run straight on stage. They do their thing. They drop the mic and they get back on their plane. The plane never turns off.
And I paid them the most money out of every speaker last year.
Yeah. I've seen it. We've never hired one of those. Like the interesting thing about ours is it takes me time usually to get them bought in. They just have to see the movement. If they see the movement and they can find the time, they're willing to come pour in. So most of my guys, we actually have a hard fast rule. I try to push hard. Like I'd like you to stay for the whole event because when you have context before you get on stage and like what we've put these men through and what they've been experiencing and what they've heard, not heard. A lot of times I'm not a keynote guy either. I don't really need you to hit a keynote. Like I'd like to know a little bit about what you're going to talk about because I create that experience. But for the most part, if you get on stage and your talk completely deviates as a result of maybe one powerful question, or you got there a few hours early and you watch what some of the experiences that we put these men through, that's more powerful than like you memorized how to like inflection and intone and punch out your perfect keynote. Like that's great, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But it's 10x more powerful when you can just let the conversation go where it was supposed to go.
Exactly. So. And I think too that context piece, and I don't get it either, right? Like I don't know. I when I speak, I have to see it. I have to talk to people that came in attendance and ask them why. Yeah. Like why? What are you seeking? If I have a talk on disruption, and most of these people aren't even at the stage like mentally and they need like inspiration. Well, I need to pivot that just because the facilitator read that keynote and was like, let's do that. They may not be in that position or understand it. Like there's been event planners who are like, I have no idea what I'm doing. They just put me in this role. Can you help me out? Because I have the event background and I'm like, and I tell them exactly what I shared, like build this from feeling and build this from flow and bring people on and experience, not just throw in these different random subjects and outlines and this person's selling a book and this is doing this and that. But in those conversations, what I've realized is sometimes the person hiring the speaker has no idea what's going on, so they can set you up to go and get on stage and give a keynote that doesn't resonate with 80% of the people in the audience. So how I deflate that and how I mitigate that is to go talk to people.
Sure. No, it's
like, why are you here? What are you doing? What's most of the room like? Who's in the room right now? Is what level of people, like, who'd you come with? How'd you hear about it? Those questions are going to give me so much detail to really understand. And if there's similarities,
yeah, 100%, yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, everybody's similar. I've also been to events and did this, and everybody's answer was different. And I'm like, this, and then I find out like this is the second year, and it's someone who really doesn't give a shit and slapped it together,
exactly.
and just wanted to be a brand play.
So real quick before we wrap up, I want to go back so we can kind of like, I want to button up this. I'm hearing disruption. I'm hearing it. And you're super passionate. Just as you communicate this, I'm watching you. I'm actually watching your heart rate rise, which is beautiful. You're passionate about what real impact looks like and actually prioritizing impact, so much so that you want to disrupt. So are you disrupting a marketplace in the form of professional development should look like X, or events should look like X, or how would you define how you're actually disrupting?
So events would be the tool to disrupt. The concept of human connection being greater than technology is what I want to disrupt, the trajectory of where I think business and life is going with all the AI stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to disrupt humans' thinking to focus more on human connection and parlay that into the tech.
Yeah.
And then the tool that I use is disrupting live events, conferences, and doing it different and unique so I can attract the right people.
So can we leverage tech to increase human connection?
100%.
Right?
That's my whole, that's
the thesis,
that's
right?
the thesis.
Okay.
The thesis is, I'm not saying don't use it.
Yeah.
I'm saying use it
to strengthen, to deepen connection
with a fucking soul.
Yeah.
You use it for the right ways and be you and share your awkward, weird, whoever uniqueness.
Yeah.
I had a friend this morning. We got coffee at 7 a.m. and he's like, hey, dude, this is some content I'm going to put out for my new company. He's crushing it, by the way. And I'm like, dude, that's you.
Yeah.
It's fucking goofy.
Which is the best thing
it's
you can tell somebody.
It's awkward. It's weird. Like, you cackle ridiculously, but like, that's why I love you as a friend, because every time I hang out with you, you're this super high energetic, positive guy who's goofy as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I love you, bro. Like, put out all that content because those people are going to align with your personality and your humor. And those are going to be the best types of clients.
And so this line gets thrown around a lot too, but I think if you really unpack it, it would change the way you show up, which is your vibe attracts your tribe.
100%.
And like everything is vibration. I'm a big, like I'm a quantum mechanics junkie. So I know for a fact that like your energy introduces you before you walk into a room, like your frequency, which is vibration. So all that to say, what if you just vibrate at the frequency you were born to vibrate at, which might be weird, quirky, you cackle. What does that look like? Because all you're going to do is attract people that either appreciate that or do it as well, or for whatever reason. Why? Like I'm at a stage in my entrepreneurial journey, my journey as a human being. I just want to build cool shit with people I love.
We said that the other night.
So it's like that's where I'm at. And if
doing shit with cool people,
like
cool
build big shit with cool people, whatever it is. It's like, how can I just hang out? Like, because I don't really drink hardly ever. But if I'm like, would I even drink a beer with this dude? Like, would I just hang out? If we weren't talking business, bro, and opportunities and all these things, what if we were just like you said, goofing off in a car, screaming at the top of our lungs some song we knew in high school? And I just met you, so I'm embarrassed to know the lyrics to this. I don't know, New Kids on the Block song.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit, bro. If we're hanging tough, I went all the way to Boston with you on accident. So if we're hanging tough, I'm just saying, like, when I get to that level with someone and then we can build some shit, that's where I want to be.
Totally.
I don't need to posture, flex, like, this is what I got going on, this is what I don't. How can I benefit you? Cool. How can you like, fuck all that. Like, there's good people out there that you can build big shit with. So like I've been separating like that for a long time now.
Totally.
And it's been a fun game, man.
Well, it's you and your element, because there is alignment with everybody around you, and we're talking about like these quirky little sayings, but that are true and hit. This one hit me recently. Like, the people around me, whether that's clients or friends, that's my circle. But if they're not in alignment, that's my cage.
Oof.
And I was like, whoa, that hits, because I need to push some people out of my circle right now. And I need to spend more time getting certain people in my circle. You're someone that I want to spend more time getting people in my circle, right?
Yeah, we're going to do
because
cool things.
there's alignment and there's opportunity, and we look at things similarly, right? And like, we hung out the other night for hours. I think the event ended at 8:30. We hung out till midnight, right? Like,
Remember, I
there's alignment.
I sent my guys home in my car. I was like, I'm going to Uber because I see something here where I just want to kick it with these guys and just talk shop or just talk life. I don't think we even talked business, really. We just talked about things. Remember, we unpacked a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, relationships,
it goes where it goes.
marriage, kids. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody talked about business. I think people referenced we're all entrepreneurs and business owners, and maybe that played into kids and played into time and energy and decision making. But like, those are the best type of conversations. No one sat there and said, dude, I just sold a new offer and made $33,000 last night.
Yeah.
That didn't even that
Cool,
I don't even think
bro.
I don't even think anybody would have gave a shit, to be honest. But yeah, man, thanks for having me, dude. This has been just another great conversation in my life, and I'm just grateful for you and the opportunity to develop this relationship, and where I can help or be of assistance, man. I'm always just a text or a call away, brother.
Yeah, likewise, man. I think what triggered me or triggered this conversation was like, you were like, hey, I don't know if I've been on, all my buddies' podcasts, and then vice versa. And I was like, so here's what the audience doesn't know, and they're going to know now. I actually haven't launched this thing yet. I was going to bank 10. That was my story, right? Because I travel so much, and then drop it. And I think I'm 4 or 5 deep. So my promise to you now is episode 1 and dropping it sooner than I was prepared to, so we can push some people to that event, because I know it's going to be powerful. I know it's going to change lives. So that being said, one last time before we sign off, what are the dates again? September 17, 18?
17 and 18,
Okay.
impacteffect24.com. Grab your tickets, because we don't do the whole like, oh, we overpromised and we need to discount tickets a week before so there's not empty seats. Our ticket scale goes up because this will sell out.
Yeah, which
so
is
grab them like now,
Yeah.
so you don't pay more, because
Yeah.
I love you and I don't want you to pay more.
Yeah, no, that's unique, by the way, because I've been on I'm still at 14 events in. I've learned the game where, like, okay, the break-even analysis is we have to sell 14 more tickets, and if we sell them at this price, okay, whore them out. This
Yeah.
I can't walk into this event in the red. So that's a beautiful thing to sit in that level of abundance and power and say, look, the thing's going up, and not from any place other than love. Like, commit. Don't be. There's interested and there's committed. So stop being interested. Hop the fence to committed. And let's play ball, because again, I'm telling everybody, I'm looking in the camera here, this thing will change the way you're going to be a little spoiled. You may never go to another event again, because you're going to be like, hey, they didn't give me the pregame. I couldn't be the crazy guy. I couldn't even get FaceTime with one speaker. So you're going to kind of spoil some people, but it's going to be a beautiful thing. I will 100% be there. I'll make it happen. And whatever I can do to help you get this thing full, let's figure that out as well. So
Appreciate you,
brother. That's another episode. Again, that's technically I'm calling it now, will be the first episode we drop, just so we can get this thing moving. And
Let's go.
Yeah, that's it, man. I love you, brother.
Love you, bro.
All right.